I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, March the 30th, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Vitalix is an American family-owned company that specializes in livestock feed tubs to meet your every need. Get the blue tub. For more information, go to Vitalix.com. What's in the bill? I told you on our last visit that the senators that authored the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act have dropped the bill now, and so it's going to be up for discussion here. We're hoping that we have a committee hearing here pretty quick, and then there'll be some debate on that, and then soon after that when we'll have a vote on it. But this deal is real. It's an actual bill now, and so you know, this is very exciting. We've been working on this for a long time. The U.S. Cattlemen's Association Marketing Committee, which I'm a part of, unanimously voted to support the bill, the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. So that shouldn't surprise you. We're the ones that have been working on it so hard, and it's just been a long process here. It was about 2.5 years ago, Jake's Steakhouse in Billings, Montana, after a U.S. Cattlemen's event, that we sat down and were discussing the issues that were keeping the cattle business from being successful, and the things that we were so frustrated about. And it was Justin Tupper and Lee Richmond and Jess Peterson and I pretty much talking there. And you know, we decided, you know, if we just had more cash trade, or we could stop it from evaporating, you know, things would be better. It would encourage people. It would encourage people that go long the board to take long positions more often if they knew that there had to be more negotiated trade. And we thought, well, how can we do that? And one of us said, well, you'd have to get a bill passed where you'd have to mandate that they trade a minimum level of negotiation. And we're like, oh, you know, that's never going to happen. But we started working on it. And we've worked on it, and we've had countless, you know, conference calls and meetings and emails and texts back and forth, and trying to get something done. And Leah Biondo, that works for U.S. Cattlemen's Association in Washington, D.C., and she's a lobbyist there, and she talks with the staffers of these major senators especially, but you know, all the lawmakers there. She's worked tirelessly with those staffers to get the language right, and we've worked with the main senators, you know, with Deb Fischer, with Chuck Grassley, with Tester, with Wyden. We worked with all of them trying to get something done on this deal. All the while, we've got the two bigger trade associations throwing rocks at us from across the street. NCBA is scared to death that we're going to get something done here, because it's going to piss off the packers. They're going to say, where were you guys at? Why weren't you keeping this away from us? The North American Meat Institute is going to be coming out after it, and they haven't even started yet. They still can't believe that we've gotten this far. So we haven't seen any major releases of information, but they're going to try to shoot holes all in this. We have heard some, just mostly through social media, that RCAF is against it. So we got RCAF on one side saying, well, why would you guys settle for that little of a negotiated trade mandate? You know, we should have 50-14 when, you know, the bulk of our cattle are fed by corporates, and they're all in some kind of a formula deal, so there wouldn't even be 50% of cattle to trade negotiated if everybody but the corporates did it. Well, break them up then, you know, break up the packers, you know, don't let them do business, you know, tear the whole thing down. Can't do that, you know, get something you can get. And so that's what we're doing, but we've yet to really see where they're going to come from. But I can guarantee you, NCBA, your National Corporate Beef Association, and North American Meat Institute, they are going to pull every dirty trick in the book to try to get this bill killed. But it's already up there now. Okay, so we've got to have a hearing here, and then they're going to be sending people in there and saying how it's going to ruin everything and it doesn't leave room. No, it's a good bill. Is it perfect? No. Well, would I change things about it? Yes, I would make it much more stringent on the amount of minimum trade there. But we can't get that. We're going for what we can get, but what it's going to do is it's going to keep it from going completely away. It's going to keep us from completely losing negotiated trade. That's an important thing. If we lose it, like Texas A&M research said, by 2026 in Texas, it goes to net zero negotiated cash trade. Zero. So no more price transparency in the Texas feedlot area if we don't get this deal done. It is going to eliminate that. And don't think, if you guys are just raising calves or backgrounding cattle, don't think it's not going to trickle down. 30 years ago we had feeder pig sales all over this country. Active feeder pig sales where they sold thousands of them, just like we do our cattle now. When's the last time you went to a feeder pig auction? There's no need for them. They're all under contract. Is that the way you want the calves to be too? You just raise them, you contract them. The packer's going to tell their guy that's under contract the background and what he's going to pay for them. There's no negotiated trade down there, no price discovery. You just go through the motions just like a robot. You won't have any skin in the game. Backgrounder will take them and he'll run them on his grass, knowing all the well he's not going to hit a home run. He's just putting in the labor for some kind of a board. The Packers board group there. And then once they take them and background them so long, then you will get you'll weigh those cattle up and you'll get docked if they don't weigh enough, and then you already knew what you were going to get, and it's just barely enough to scrape by, and then they'll go to the feedlot and the same thing will happen there. But they've already taken it down to the feedlot level. We're losing all of our independent cattle feeders. We lost Bob Foote on Friday. He was the biggest of the independent cattle feeders. Thank God his boys are going to continue that. But, that's what we had to look forward to, which was nothing. But if we get this bill, it'll save things, guys. I really, really, truly believe that. What else is in it? Lots of good stuff. Some things probably that are a little more aggressive than what your minimum mandates are. How about the part in there that says the packers will report the number of cattle that they have scheduled for the next 14 days? That is huge. That is huge. We've tried to get that before. That is in the bill. The packers will report number of cattle they've got for delivery the next 14 days. I mean, that's as big a tip of the hand as a cattle on feed report for your packers, or the way the packers use that against your cattle feeders. So it's gonna be some good information that your cattle sellers, the ones that decide to negotiate, which it'll be easier for them to negotiate because packers are going to have to have more negotiation. That's a great deal. It calls for a faster carcass weight reporting. We need that. USDA loves to put data together and then hold a cover over it and then have a drum roll and a countdown and then pull it back. And they do that with carcass weight reporting. We're at least 2 weeks behind on carcass weight reporting. Why it takes so long? Well, this bill calls to expedite that. It calls for mandatory reporting of cutout yields. That's for your people on your meat side too. How much product are they getting out of this? It's not going to be a real regular type report, but we'll at least find out. Would be kind of good. I've always said that your packers wouldn't seem so crooked if they had a window that guys could look into, and see what's going on. Nobody really wants to look in that. It's kind of barbaric and we don't understand a lot of it. That's what they love about it, is because we can't see that. So they tell us what they want us to know. And then we have auditors that don't really have the grit to go in there and do anything about it, but they mostly snow them too. But that's all we got, and we're going to be living and dying by those auditors through audit review and compliance through USDA that look into the mandatory price reporting. The cattle contracts library is also in there too. We've heard a lot about that. But your negotiated minimum mandates is the biggest thing on there. It sets a floor on there that can't go below. And then we're going to look at it and look at it in 2-year increments, and then they will they can adjust that, but it's got to adjust higher. So it will adjust higher in your southern plains. It's just gonna set the floor in the northern plains. Guys, we're not going to say that your packers can't have any more negotiated trade than just what we set it. That is the minimum that they can have. And I guarantee you, because it's plant by plant, it's going to cause that to increase big time. Because, right now what little trade we have is just done by a few plants. And there's some plants that don't participate in it at all. So when they start participating, because they have to, and the others are doing their, it's going to increase it a lot more than what you guys realize. And I saw so many people attack, and it was all RCAFers attacking. That's all they know. Unless it was Bill's idea, it's no good. And they're not going to get any credit for it if they don't get this. So they're getting really nervous that something's going to happen for the good of the industry, and they're not going to get any credit. They were all bitching about the $90,000 fine on there. Well, that's just a drop in the bucket. You think they want numerous $90,000 fines? It's per incident, people. No, I don't think they want to. I know it's not as much as they make, because they make millions of dollars a day in those plants, but still 90 grand, that's something. It's definitely something. And once you become a repeat offender, then you can go back in there, have civil suits against them. It's all documented there. It's not going to be something they're going to want to do, guys. It'll be well publicized. They're not going to want to do that. But the minimums that are set, the mandated minimums, they leave room for your corporate formula, guys. We're not gonna run the corporate feeders out of business, nor do we want to. They are still buying feeder cattle in the open market. They're just doing it. They're just getting economies of scale. They're doing it at a big number. We can't feed people with farmers markets as much as some of those nuts in Washington think we can. We got to have big numbers, guys. They're going to do that. They're formula traders. That's the way they found to stay in business. And a lot of your smaller outfits have not found a way to stay in business. We're trying to give them an olive leaf, a way to stay in business, but we have to leave room for your corporate formula guys. The minimums that are set leaves room for them. It leaves room for your branded programs, because they think that's the only way they can get a premium is through some type of formula deal. It leaves room for the guys that feed junk, that like to sell just on the rail. It leaves room for all of them, and then it sets minimum amounts of negotiation. It includes negotiated grid to reach those levels. I wished it didn't, but they had tried to slip in a deal where they could buy them negotiated and then tie it to the box beef cutouts. That's what we got now. We got that shut down. That was a deal that just came of late. And thank God we found out about that and got that shut down. That would have been pushing this big bill through and not having anything. But it does include negotiated grid. Negotiated grid is the second best way to sell cattle next to negotiated cash. But your cattle sellers have to demand negotiation. If they just turn in negotiated grid and they're all at the same price, there was no negotiation on that. But I mean, your cattle sellers got to try too. But negotiated grid is a way to achieve those minimums. Pure negotiated cash, if they could buy them online at like a Fed Cattle Exchange or something like that, or they can buy them in an auction, in a brick and mortar auction. Maybe we'll have more fat cattle auctions. Maybe they'll be more robust. Maybe they'll get a better price in there. I'm all about the sale barns. If we could keep more sale barns open, sell more fat cattle at auction, I think that would be great. Maybe get some in the Southern Plains. That would be a way to achieve that. That's a great deal. But we feel like we have the votes in the Senate to get this done. I told you before that we're a little nervous about the number of votes in the House, especially after NAMI, National or North American Meat Institute. They're the thugs for your beef packers. They're the ones that are going to go out there. That's their trade association. They're going to be pulling strings and trying to get the deal stopped. NCBA is going to try to get the deal stopped because Kansas Livestock Association, Texas cattle feeders are against it. Nebraska cattlemen's, Iowa cattlemen's, Missouri cattlemen's, several outfits in the southeast that haven't sold out to Farm Bureau are still in it. But mostly U.S. Cattlemen's Association and Feeder Flash gang members are the ones that's gotten it this far. It reminds me of going to San Antonio and Houston and watching the calf scramble, and those kids, I did it when I was a kid, they get those halters on those calves and they got to pull them into the box. We're right there, we're pulling in there. We need a little bit of help. We need you guys to go in there and twist the tail and help us get that calf over the line. If you can just do it. 202-225-3121. That's the switchboard for your house. Call in there. Get a hold of your House representative. Tell them what you do. Tell them who you are, where you live, and that we need to get this pushed through. And the Democrats are actually trying to get it pushed through because why? Because the White House administration has endorsed this. And the White House is actually negotiating to get this bill pushed through. So we can get this deal done. We're right there, guys. We've already got it teed up. All we got to do is kick it through. And now we got some of these guys, these Johnny-come-lately, say, well, that was a good idea, but here's what we ought to do. We've been doing this shit for 2.5 years, tirelessly working on it. And we've got it here. This is all we'll ever get. Do you want it, or do you want nothing? Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. April live cattle futures up 60 cents at 140.90. June's up $1.70 at 138.47. Your back months on live cattle up 50 cents to up 122. March feeder cattle up 60 cents at 156.70. April's up 352 at 164.35. Your back months on feeder cattle up 225 to up 432. Your grains were all down because it looks like things are starting to settle a little bit with this war that's going on in Ukraine. In fact, the Ukrainians took it across the border into Russia and started destroying some of their shit, and I don't think they liked it very well. But your corn was down 22.25 cents, 7.26 We're about to see how overbought that stuff was. Beans down 21.25 cents at 16.43. Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 46 at 10.24.5. It's about $2 a bushel less than it was here just about 10 days ago. I got Feeder Flash gang members in that part of the country. A Feeder Flash gang member that watches daily, he says he lives in Estonia and near the Russian border. He raises cattle and sheep there. He's got the Ukrainians that have worked for him. He said 4 in particularly that have worked for him, and they're over there working right now. And he gave me a little inside information. He says there's lots of farmers over there. Farmers are exempt. You know, they made all the men under 60, I believe it was, stay because they're supposed to fight. But farmers are exempt from that. And there's no women over there, so the farmers got plenty of time to work the fields and no nagging. But the farmers are over there working the fields. He says the wheat looks really good. And he's being offered wheat and maize too. He noted that at a very reasonable price because they're not being able to export it through the Black Sea there. So where there's not fighting going on, out in the rural areas, he said the wheat looks good. Those guys are busy working in the fields. They're going to have it. And he said the price isn't that high. What they do get out of there, though, the middlemen are cashing in on it because they're getting to sell it at these big global prices. and they're basically gouging on the buying end from your farmers that can't reach that. That kind of sounds like something that would happen over here. But there's some information on that come, I mean, today, early this week, and from somebody that really knows. How about your fat cattle trade? Nothing. The guys are going to hold the line. Did see a little bit in the auctions there at Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota. Actually communicated with Greg Reichen there early in the week, and his Tuesday sale, he said he only had about 1,000 fat cattle, which would be huge any other fat cattle auction, but that's the biggest fat cattle auction we have in this country. And he said that's the lightest run he's had for 3 or 4 years, and he said that's how light your market rated fats are in that area. But he said on a light run, you know, the market was a little bit stronger. And I want to mention Gary Marks. He's a guy there, kind of a retired guy that used to be in the business, that goes there on sale day and gets his coffee, and he's got quite a drive, but he's eat up with it like the rest of us, sale barn junkie. But he comes to the sales, the fat cattle sales, and the feeder cattle sales, and he and I have become friends just through social media, and he gives me a little bit of insight about what's going on in the sale that Greg's too busy to you know, tell me about every time. But Gary told me, and I wanted to mention Gary because he's not going to be there in April, which I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have regular information because he's having some surgery done. I don't know exactly what it is, but it sounds like it's going to be you know, something that has some concern. So you guys send up a positive thought for Gary Marks there, going in for surgery this week, going to be down for a month or so, and we won't have as good of information coming out of Stockman's Livestock in Yankton as what we normally get. But hopefully he'll be back. Says he'll be back in May, and then we'll be back to where we're at. But Gary said the conventional cattle steady to a buck higher from 138 to 140.75. Drug-free or non-implanted cattle sold at a little premium up to 145.75, and the market on those cattle that are program cattle was just a tick better than what your conventional cattle were, but a little bit on the positive side nevertheless. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Choice cuts up 63 cents at 264.50. Selects couldn't hold the big gains that they had to start the week. They were down 148 at 254.84. Your slaughter, 244,000 through the first 2 days. That's 2,000 more than last week, 8,000 more than the same week a year ago. Your cows still very, very active. Cutter cow cutout 228.70. That was actually off 39 cents, but I had another Feeder Flash gang member in Knoxville, Tennessee, told me that high dressing cows in Knoxville at the cow sale up to $1.15, and those good heavy muscle bulls up to $1.30 in Tennessee, guys. Wow. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Tuesday sitting at 154.85. That was up just 15 cents, but it was higher. And your real-time index brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. Coming to you from northeastern Kansas, guys. I got to go up to a meeting there in Omaha this week, and then back down to southern Missouri to give a talk later on in the week. But man, the Flint Hills, they burned a lot of it off there like they always do. No cattle. There won't be any cattle out there for another 2 weeks. But man, heavy rain Tuesday evening, and it's raining. I'm surprised you can't hear it in buckets, and a lot of thunder and lightning. But don't see this kind of rain where I come from, and I miss it from being from not too far from here up in northwestern Missouri for so many years. But man, I forgot how it can rain. But getting a lot of good moisture, and I'm feeling good about the moisture levels in the plains here as we get into the meat of the spring. Talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri. 3,200 head through the ring. Big run. I tell you what, receipts are light all over. Doesn't take a lot of cattle to draw a crowd. You have 3,200, mostly lightweight calves and stockers. It's going to draw a crowd. Another 350 through their in-house video they do with help from DV Auction. Steer calves at West Plains sold $5 to $10 higher. Heifer calves $3 to $6 higher. Those stockers were at the full extent of the highest. How about 66 head, 705-pound steers bring $163.50, West Plains, Missouri. I'll tell you where they had a good sale was in St. Mary's, Kansas, at Rezac Livestock Commission Company there. Denny Rezac and the crew there at 2,500. They had about 1,500 feeders last week, about 2,500 feeders this week. And man, did they have a hot sale at St. Mary's. Of course, they've seen the same things that I saw today coming up this way. But your best tested weights of steers were $2 to $6 higher, with spots as much as $15 higher, like on your stockers, on your 6-weight stocker steers. And because they're getting, guys are finishing their orders up on those, because like I said, they'll be turning cattle out here in the Flint Hills within 2 weeks. Heifers steady to $4 higher at Rezac Livestock Commission. Some individual quotes around the circuit. How about Huron Continental Marketing, Huron, South Dakota? 71 head, 782-pound steers bring 167. How about Bluegrass Stockyards, Maysville, Kentucky? But man, look at this quote. 145 head and 1 drag, Maysville, Kentucky. 748-pound steers bring 158.10. Put some wheels under those. How about Kingsville Livestock Auction, Kingsville, Missouri. 60 head, 801-pound steers at 162.60. That's the only load lot of steers I saw that weighed over 8 on Tuesday that bring over 160. But best quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, Rowgrow top quote for the day, indeed come out of Rezac Livestock Commission Company that had the hot sale. 55 head, 700-pound steers bring 179.75. Wow, that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.